So hello and welcome back to episode 2 of the Private Client Podcast. Simon, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Charlie. I've had a busy couple of months, but that is purely self-inflicted because we organise loads of events. So,
I was going to say, is that our events or is that other things? Deep Bridge, normal life.
um, well, everything.
Yeah, I know.
Again, self-inflicted pain. I've got 3 kids. That's all mine and my wife's
Self-inflicted,
fault.
self-inflicted joy.
Obviously, joy. That's what I really mean.
Yeah,
But also for Deep Bridge, it's a busy time of year. It's obviously not running right up to the end of the tax year yet, but we're everyone's thinking about advice and their tax bills and planning. So it is a very busy time of year for us from that perspective. So busy on all fronts.
yes, similar here. I've always found so right from when I started off on this sort of IFA journey a while, well, 10, 11 years ago now. There's certain times of the year that definitely peak and trough. It always goes a little quiet over the summer months. It goes completely dead over Christmas, the 2 weeks over Christmas. But the busiest times are definitely for us the September through to Christmas period, and then like a 2 week pause, and then January through end of the tax year is always it's the busiest time. Obviously, we just ran a whole load of wine tasting events, which I thought generally went really well. Good attendance at all of them. Lots of people networking and getting a lot out of it. So really pleased with that. And I was at the PFS conference yesterday in Newport, which is
So how did that go?
it was really good. It was really good. And it's great. I mean, it's the national conference. People have traveled a long way to get there, but obviously for me in Bristol, it's a short half-hour drive, which is really nice. So it's really convenient. PFS put on a good event, some good keynote speakers. Chris Budd talking about well-being, Catherine Morgan, and I'm quite a big fan of her podcast, so she was really good as well. So yeah, all in all, a good day, a good
And a
day.
good chance to catch up with people and do a bit of networking
Yeah,
by any chance?
I saw lots of people lots of people sort of attended private client networking events that sort of came out to me and had a good chat. So it's really nice from that, and get a bit of feedback and see what people are thinking of them, and importantly, are they making good connections, which is it's always good because we don't necessarily collect loads of stats on that. It's lots of anecdotal sort of anecdotal evidence and stuff, but yeah, more of the same, really good events. And as it like I think right from the off, it's all the feedback we've always got is about the niche, as in the attendees that are there are just being really relevant, and considering that's what we're aiming for, they're really pleased with that. But earlier this week, we did a presentation on networking skills.
I played a very small part in that. So all
A very
credit to
helpful part though. It's very hard to present and do the sort of chat and sort of field questions. So no, very much a team effort. But I thought for today we might go through. So in that presentation, it was a half-hour CPD session. So this is something that we've been hosting on the members portal, but I thought it'd be useful to throw it out to everyone, non-members alike, just to see or just basically to provide a little value and show what is being made available on the members site. But I thought today we could go through some of our tips after sort of 7-8 years of running a networking group, and hopefully there'll be some value in it for people, particularly if I think a lot of people don't necessarily love networking to start with. So I thought that might be a useful thing to go through.
Yeah, I completely agree. No, it was a really useful session, and for those people who aren't members, the membership includes access to our library of CPD sessions, which is all cross-professional CPD. There's a mix of principles based, so high level sessions, more in-depth sessions, but also kind of skills based sessions, and being an organization based primarily on networking, we thought it would make sense to cover that off as an early CPD session. So Charlie, well done on putting together such a kind of great and thorough presentation on that. I mean, the first point, as you said, it was to sign up and attend.
Yeah, should we go through them? So yeah, point
Mm.
one. Is this too obvious? Is it too
No,
obvious to say sign up and attend?
no, it's absolutely not too obvious. I mean, it takes me back to my, I suppose, my uni days, but we can go back to school if you want to. But definitely at uni, there was a bit of a phrase that went round, which was get involved. And
That's true.
you know, if you want to meet people, if you want to have fun, if you want to have the opportunities open to you, you've got to get involved. So signing up and attend, yeah, stop thinking and just do it. Just go along. It might be a rubbish event that you turn up to, but at least you went along. I'm not talking about our events, Charlie. Obviously,
Obviously.
doesn't matter what networking event you're thinking about. You know, just at some point you've got to stop thinking and you've got to commit.
Yeah, when I was putting it together, and it was a point I said on the call, I was trying to think of what the alternative is, and I basically brought it down to, so say you're in a private client field, be it law or tax or advice of its varying forms or anything, and you think to yourself, right, I want to develop a reciprocal relationship with another firm to sort of pass my clients on to who need the services that I don't offer, and hopefully get referrals back. And I was just thinking, what would be the process? And you'd basically have to identify the industry you want to target. You'd have to identify a firm within that industry that's also within your local area. Then you'd have to do a cold call approach, be it on the phone or cold email. If you get through, you just have to hope the person that you get through to is also in the mindset where they want to do the same. And I was just thinking about the time involved of all of that, versus sign up to an event where the niche is there and you don't need to do any of that. You skip past all of it, turn up to an event, and then it's all presented to you, and that person will be, potentially sat opposite you right there. So
no, absolutely. That, I mean, that goes back to why we started it. And from my perspective, I'm dual qualified via the PFS and the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investments, or the CISI. And I was on the local committee, helping to organise CPD and social events and things like that. And we did think about organising some networking, but it was phenomenally difficult to actually get that organised at an institutional level. And whilst it was useful networking, it was within the industry. And it took, I was involved with that for a number of years. It took a number of years to actually to kind of build your network, but equally that network was far less commercial than it would have been had I gone out there and tried to find other people in other professions. If you see what I mean.
So yeah, so all starts, sign up and attend. Also, as well, I think it's one of those things that you think about it, and like so many things in life, you can spend so long thinking about something that actually the hardest part is hitting that sign up button. And then, I mean, that's the major thing.
It's a bit like going to the gym, isn't it?
A bit like going to the gym. Nothing happens unless you attend. So that's where it all starts. What's next?
So when you walk in there, you've got to walk in there with a mindset of you're here to enjoy yourself. It's aim to have fun, as you put it. I think if you go in there with a lot of trepidation, or you're not going to enjoy it, and things like that, at the end of the day, what's the worst can happen? You're going to have some coffee. You probably might have some breakfast. You might have some wine, whatever it is. It's that sounds all right to me. And you might meet some really interesting people. So aim to have fun and just relax.
I think it's where it's basically because to get a referral relationship, you need to build a connection with the
Mm,
people you're meeting. And I think if you're in that mindset of I'm here to enjoy myself, the personal relationships just come so much more
mm,
easily,
mm,
so much more naturally if that's what's in your head when you attend, versus, and this may sound counterintuitive, but versus having like, right, I need to get some business right now. Because I mean, let's
mm,
face it, it's not going to happen on the night. I mean,
mm,
it could do. I mean, that would be pretty impressive. Um, you're really there to build relationships, and it's so much easier. We're in the mindset of I'm just going to enjoy myself, attend the night that I haven't had to organize. Um, so yeah, I just think that's the right way to approach it. And it
mm,
can be intimidating. I mean, we've all
mm.
been to one of those events where you walk into a room, there's a load of people talking in groups, and even though they might have just met each other, as you walking in, they look like they're best friends.
Mm,
They look like they're colleagues that have been working together for a decade, and they may have just met. So it can be intimidating.
mm,
Um, and you know what? If it is a nerve-wracking thing, like, bring people. Like, I don't think there's
mm,
anything wrong with bringing colleagues, especially for the start of an event where we're a little unsure.
mm,
And different companies will do it differently, but we then do table plans and we separate people from the same firm.
mm,
But if it helps you get over the threshold, I'd say, come with a friend, come with a colleague,
mm,
as long as it's relevant.
mm. Or
And
even
sort of,
better, invite somebody from a different firm, maybe in a
yeah,
different
that's
profession
true.
that you already know is a friendly face. They'll really appreciate being invited along. But you've done one thing is you've built the relationship with them, but equally you've given yourself a friendly face. But I think that also part of the like dropping the fear or any kind of anxiety about networking and I need to meet people, I need to impress them, I need to get across my point, all the rest of it is accepting one of the other points further down the list, is planning for the long term. And if you accept from the outset that networking isn't about quick wins, it is, as you say, about building relationships,
Mm,
then you go in there thinking with a much more relaxed mindset of, well, okay, basically all I'm here to do today is actually meet people. The relationship is going to be built by me following up, by seeing them at another event, by communicating with them, by going for coffee with them. I don't need to get everything across now. I can just relax. I can just meet them. I can just see how the conversation goes, and
yeah.
that takes a lot of the pressure off.
I mean, this is probably a slightly extreme example, but it's one that I'm very fond of talking about, which is the networking group that we met, which was just sort of a non-industry
Mm,
specific, generalized one. But I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was only there. I'd recently moved back to Bristol from London. I joined that group just to have fun. I mean,
mm,
the business and the actual networking was very much secondary. But I got so much out of that group, to the extent I've made lots of personal friends. Obviously, me and you started a company together. We met there, and I even met my fiance at that networking event. So
mm,
I very much took the aim to have fun at that time. Yeah, that was very much forefront of my mind, and
mm.
not that I had intended it to be, but it's paid dividends on many fronts, as my 3-year-old daughter will attest to. um,
Yeah.
so, all right, next point. You've gone into the event, you've got past that initial, oh, everyone looks like they're best friends, even though they've just met. Events underway, you're aiming to have fun. Next point is,
Um, well, it's about learning about the people that you're talking to. If we go back to the kind of having fun thing, how do you, when you're having a conversation with somebody and you come away from a meeting or a conversation, you thought, oh, I had a really good time,
hmm,
and that was a really good meeting. I feel really good after that meeting, probably because you did quite a lot of the talking
hmm,
and you felt good because the other person was asking questions, they were listening to you, they found you interesting, and things like that. And that's a fundamental truth, is that people really like talking and they like talking about themselves.
yeah,
So
we're all guilty of that.
we're all guilty of that. It's you've yet to meet the person who isn't. But so essentially, when you go in there, aim to help other people have fun too, and learn about them. So ask them questions about what they do, ask them questions about pretty much anything, but open the conversation. Try and use the open questions, so it allow them to talk and just isn't a yes no answer.
Yeah, this is one thing, and I talked about it on the session that I'm just, even though we've been doing networking for so long, and everyone knows you ask open questions, and every time I ask closed questions, I'm always like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm from here. How was your weekend? It was good. But what I'd say is, even if you do that, which I always do, which is start with closed questions, even though I don't intend to, there's the follow up. If you're from, I don't know, wherever you're from, say, oh, do you like it? Why do you like it? Or have you been away? Like, was it good? But why was it good? Would you recommend it, and why? And you can, so even if the first questions out of your mouth are closed, mine always are. I don't know why. You can follow it up and try and open up the conversation. And there's nothing wrong with starting out with personal stuff, or like, where do you live? It's just sort of to spark a conversation, or ask about obviously what people do, but what's going on in that industry. Yeah, just get people talking. Again, this is a relationship building exercise. This is not a pitch event. People do not really want to be pitched to, which is great. It frees you from the stress of having to think of a pitch. You're there to make connections. And yeah, learning about people is high up there.
Well, I
Next
mean,
one.
you can even ask why they're there. What are they hoping to get out of the event?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who are they hoping to meet? And things like that. So it's both business, but focused, but you're focusing the back on them. So
Yep, that was so. Point 4, we talked about God, this is essential. I put on there, be consistent. And I really, really believe in this. It's very, very unlikely you're going to get anything out of a network attending one networking event. I mean, it is possible if you do some of the later points that we're going to talk about well, but really it's consistency. And what I sort of was saying about this is, like, everyone I meet, pretty much to a person, they really care about the clients they've got. They want them to receive not just a good service from their firm. If you refer on, you want your clients to get a good service elsewhere. You want it for the client, you want them to receive a good service, but also for yourself. You don't want to be referring on to a firm that where something goes wrong, and then there's a bit of blowback on you. And I think with consistency, not only does it give you more opportunities to get the sort of awareness out of who you are and who you work for, not only does it give you more opportunities to build sort of better, deeper personal relationships, it's a way of saying I am reliable without having to say, by the way, I'm really reliable. If you're just consistently seeing people at an event, it just sort of says, if I refer to this person, they're going to be around. I'm going to see them again. They're not going to disappear. And it works the other way around. If you are consistently attending whatever your chosen events are, and other people just see you regularly, it just sort of, again, it's sort of implanting that seed. This is a reliable person. They're going to be around next month or the month after or next year. It just makes you feel a little bit more secure in referring to someone, but also it makes someone else feel more secure in referring to you because they know you're going to be around.
Well, I mean, it comes down to fundamentals of who do people do business with. They firstly, you talked about the AIDA model in the kind of standard marketing model there. People have to know who you are, but they don't necessarily have to like you, but they do have to trust you. And
yeah, that's very true.
The consistency helps to build that trust, and it removes that moral hazard that they might have by referring to you, because businesses do come and go. But the fact is that you are setting your stall out to be a very consistent business that is that is not quite sure what I'm trying to say there. So
yeah, it's just that you're not sort of fly by night. You're going to be around to provide the service that you're purporting to. It's just something that just seeps into the back of your head from a trustworthy, this person's going to be around point of view. And as you said, we didn't mention it on the sign up and attend, but the real basic thing about networking, if people do not know who you are, they cannot refer to you. So signing up and attending, it's like tick box one. People know that you exist and they know what you do. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's what we're going to go through. But yeah, consistency is super important. Point five. What was point five?
So planning for the long term, which very much relates to being
Both connected.
consistent. Yeah,
Uh,
and I think it also, in my mind, it raises the fact that networking doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of your business development strategy ultimately, and you have to regard it as just a part of it. So um, you if you plan properly, then you can say, well, if I go along to these events and I do that 6 times a year, 12 times a year, whatever it is, I've done that aspect. Actually, I can now move on from that in my mind, and I can look at another aspect of what I'm doing. That aspect is covered. I know that that bit's done.
yeah, I completely agree. It's just a slow burn.
Mm.
Most of this stuff, it's a bit of a slow burn. Rome wasn't built in a day, and nor are good connections. Have to be consistent. It's not going to start generating new business tomorrow, but if you just put in the time and you work it a long time, it can be so ridiculously lucrative. From bringing clients into the firm, for your own personal sort of, if you've got revenue targets, not all do, but some do. It can just be so valuable to get those referral relationships in place, but it takes time. There's no way around it.
Mm.
Most things that are valuable do take time,
Well,
and this is no
you
different.
definitely, and you have to just remember that with people making buying decisions and ultimately referring to somebody else is a buying decision. You need between, I mean, there's various different studies out there, so, but between 7 and 20 contacts with somebody before they'll make that actual decision. And that's the same. And so,
Is it really as many as that?
yeah, it's a surprising number, and actually, it's probably
Makes sense. Makes
probably
sense.
becoming even more as people have access to more information, and we're inundated with opportunities these days. People take a long time to make decisions about all kinds of things. So if you want to move somebody to action, well, typically you've got to give them that many contacts.
Yeah.
So you've got to plan for the long term. You think, well, okay, so if I'm going to go along to one event, that's one contact. Well, you need to plan for a few more, and you need to plan what else you're going to do as well.
Yeah.
So it really is a long term plan. You think, well, if I want business in 6 months' time, what have I got to do in the next 6 months in order to make that happen? And in 6 months' time, you'll look back and you'll be very glad that you're so much further down the line.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. And then number 6, which I think, apart from signing up and attending, I think number 6 is the most important thing. It's the biggest different. All the years we've been doing this, I think this is the biggest differentiator from the people that we just get. Really good people that are like, this has been brilliant. I've either developed so many good relationships or just plain say, like, I've got so much business out of it. I think it's this final point 6 that they do well, and it's following up and asking for a referral. You can do all of the first 5. So you can sign up and attend, you can aim to have fun, you can learn about the people that you're with and build connections with them, be consistent and do it for a long time. But if you do not follow up after an event, you may still not get much out of it. So for me, whenever people ask me, like, what single thing would you say, man, the follow-up, it's a big one. And it's not just adding on LinkedIn, although you definitely need to, and it's not just an email, although that is great. It's the follow-up meeting. For me, it's the coffee, it's the lunch, it's where you may not have gone super deep into what you do work-wise during a networking event, but the follow-up is when you can. So you can go into detail about what you do, you can get more detail about what someone else does, and it's huge. I just think the follow-up is absolutely massive, and it's a difficult one because most people who are coming to our events, they are practitioners in one way or another. They're subject matter specialists. They've got busy day jobs actually providing the service to clients. So doing the follow-up is time consuming, and it's very easy to not do it. But man, if you do it well, I think it can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And I mean, in your eyes, what are the barriers to people following up?
I think it's a time is a factor for sure. But like with many things in life, you make time for the things you want to make time for. But time's a factor. I think it's more effort, because unlike the networking event, which is organized for you, you just have to sign up and go to it. But everything else around it is done. The follow up is on you. It's a bit more work, so you have to email the people directly. You have to ask them for a follow up. They have to agree. Then you have to decide a date and time, and you have to book. Agree a location. So it's just a bit more effort. And like with so many things in life, there's a bit of friction there. And many people with, you put some friction in a process, it's very easy to get sidetracked and not do it. So time is a bit of a barrier. The effort's a bit of a barrier. And then I guess impetus, maybe it's just how much effort you can put into sort of that business development side of things. So that there is a few reasons why it doesn't happen, but I just think it's absolutely massive. And part of that follow up is you have to ask. And like, I know I could probably feel people's toes curling at the thought of asking for a referral. Sounds like it would be super awkward, but it doesn't have to be at all. It's not about going for a coffee and saying, oh, we've been for a coffee now, can I have a referral? That is not how you ask. What you do is you've got to paint a picture for someone about the situation that they might encounter, which would be an appropriate time to refer. And the example I use, in my world, so I'm a financial advisor, we often deal with people that have come into money suddenly, and that could be maybe proceeds of a divorce settlement, or it could be the proceeds of a bereavement and an inheritance. And they're like, right, they've suddenly come into money. It's a really sensitive time. You've got to be very careful with those clients. You've got, there's a lot of hand holding that needs to go on. And it's something that we do a lot of. And I think we're good at it, and we offer a really good service. So if I'm talking to a private client solicitor, what I might say is, if you have got a client that's recently divorced, maybe the advisor that was in place is on one side of the marriage, and then the other person who is now sort of maybe left without help. If you ever see that situation where someone's come into that, please think of us. We do a lot of work in that scenario, and we'd love to help out.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Is definitely painting a picture for people, and giving them a clear idea, because if you can be specific about it, that someone can go, oh, I was just talking to a client last week, and they've got a referral.
It makes it so much easier. And the same thing has happened with me. People, I don't know. So one of the attendees at our event is sort of an insurance broking. Now, I know about insurance, not that I don't know about it, but this specific type of insurance is not something that we deal with. So they described it. Have you got clients that own businesses? And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, do you know if they've got key man insurance or insurances that are specific to business owners? And I was like, I'm not sure. But it's just planting that in your head. And, often I'll have a meeting coming up with a business owner, and it's just putting that in your mind. So I was like, it's just like a mental note. You're in this situation. You need this stuff. We don't do it, but I know someone who does, because they've just described it to me recently, and they're fresh in their head. And then maybe I see them again at the next event. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you told me about this, and I need to do it. So make it easy for people. Paint the picture of the scenario that they may encounter where a referral would work. And I think it makes the world of difference. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it leads on to the next point, which is, don't forget about what the other person wants. And
very true.
The way you've put it is to aim to refer before asking for a referral. So make sure in any kind of follow-up that you ask what they're looking for. What's the kind of clients you're looking for? What kind of situations are ideal for you? And you may or may not have someone in your client bank, but you, as we've talked about before, your network isn't just the people you know immediately. It could be that you were talking to another professional who you knew they had exactly that client. And you're like, oh, and you make connections, and that's how networking goes.
It's so true. I think, and where I've been doing this a long time, like obviously I love getting referrals, but honestly, I love giving referrals. I absolutely love it. It's once you get sort of into the habit of doing it, you realize, well, think about it, when you receive a referral, you're not just happy because there's some potential new business there. It's just like a massive compliment. It's a massive compliment without actually having to give a compliment. It's sort of like, show don't tell. So when someone refers to me, I'm so pleased. I just think, oh my God, you rate me enough that you're sending a client to me. It's just a huge compliment. I really appreciate it. And so I just absolutely love referring on, because I know that the second that solicitor or that tax advisor or that investment manager, whatever it is, when they receive that email either from me or directly from the client, they'll get that same feeling. They'll be like, oh my God, I'm over the moon. This person rates me enough. They're a referring client. It's a huge compliment. I love doing it. And if you haven't done the follow-up and you haven't sort of painted that picture of a sort of return referral, it's just infinitely easier when you've referred on to someone already. They can immediately see the benefit of it. And also, and I mentioned this on the call, there's that sort of psychological thing about reciprocity. If like you do something for someone, they do feel a certain amount like, I want to do something back. So refer before asking, I think it's huge. If you can, obviously, like in some situations it's difficult. You can't always do it, but if you can, it's huge.
So what I think it's triggered a thought, and I'm going to go back one step to the follow up and ask, because the follow up and ask runs through quite a lot of what you're doing. And we were talking then or before about you've got to actually do the follow up. So when you're planning to go to an event, you put the event in your diary. That's excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, the next morning, stick half an hour in your diary to do the follow ups, and then you won't forget. And then you've allocated the time to do that. In the same token, with when you've done those follow-ups and you've actually had the follow-up, you're in that follow-up meeting, have an idea, and this could be part of your plan, have an idea of what you're going to get out of that meeting. But rule 101 for a meeting is, what's the next step?
Yeah.
What's the next meeting? What is the next point you are going to talk to that person, and make sure you leave that meeting where you know that you're going to follow up with that person, or you've got that next meeting in the diary, so that follow up is going to happen again and again, even if it's, I'll tell you what, I'll see you at the next event.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that. But ideally, you'd say, oh, can we put a meeting in the diary? Or I'll find out this information, I'll send it to you, or I'll connect you to this person. So make sure with every follow-up, you know what the follow-up to the follow-up is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I really agree. And that leads on to point 8, which I put produce valuable content. So this is way of like producing content. So this is more leans into marketing than necessarily networking, but I think it's part of that follow-up with people. If you produce content, it does two main things. It establishes value. It establishes your knowledge, for one. It produces value for the person hopefully receiving it, because it's basically, hopefully it will round off knowledge in either an area they work in and they just need a bit more, or it will give them more a knowledge of an area that they don't encounter so often. So there's value there. But also it's that subtle, I'm here. It's that awareness piece. Like, remember that we spoke, remember what I do. And it's just, again, so when someone's in that situation with a client and they're like, actually, there's something more to this.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. content is part of that thing, and of the marketing funnel. So on the presentation, you talked about the ADA model. So that's a bit of jargon for everybody. But if you just Google marketing funnel or sales funnel, you'll see the kind of four main stages of how people make buying decisions. And you've got to have those multiple touch points through that. But you have to be able to interest people, and you have to get people considering what you do. And content is part of that, because you can give them in-depth knowledge that they can be both interesting to them and their clients, but it allows them to consider your services, and it's an ever-present reminder that you're there. Especially if you can produce it in hard copy, or it's something useful that they could even use with their clients to illustrate a point. Then it can be really powerful in moving people through that funnel.
Yeah, I think so too. Similar to the referring before asking for a referral is number 9, which is facilitate others meeting and make good introductions. So if someone asks you if you do something and you don't, maybe pass them on to someone that you do know offers that service. It's sort of, you could argue it's not exactly your referral, but it sort of acts in a similar way. It's just being a really good contact. It's being a really good part of your personal network. Just making sure people get to the answer that they want, even if you can't provide it directly, point them in the direction that they can. And it's appreciated. It's appreciated. It all helps in building that trust with people that ultimately leads to the thing that you're after, which is referrals and getting new clients.
Yeah, sure. And sometimes that's easier as well than referring your own clients, because somebody might come and say, oh, well, I'm a trust lawyer. Have you got anyone with trusts in your client bank? And you're like, no, I don't have anyone with trusts in my client bank. But so you can't actually refer yourself, or you don't have someone in that specific situation. But as a matter of fact, you were at maybe an event within your own industry, and you were talking to another, say, Charlie, you were at the PFS conference, and someone was really bemoaning the fact they've got so many trusts and they're so hard to manage. Do they know and you kind of think, oh, well, I could refer that person to this person. And, that it's not a client, but it's maybe another referral center for them. So it's all, again, networking.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that leads us on to the final point. So this is point 10. And this works on an individual basis for sure, but I think this is more focused on firm level. So if you want to hit all of these points, getting awareness out, developing contacts, having good relationships on a firm level basis, you can sponsor an event, and that'll get you all kinds of extra benefits. So that'll get you sort of logo and shout outs on email distributions, on social networking, which is all the awareness piece. I'm here, we exist. And as we said earlier, if someone doesn't know you exist, they can't refer to you. So sponsoring can be huge for that. On the night of an event, certainly the ones that we run, sponsors will get a couple of minutes to introduce themselves to the entire room. Again, huge on the awareness piece, also potentially creating a bit of interest and desire. And then you also get complimentary tickets if you're a sponsor. We try and get it so sponsors get a person on each table, because you can get the awareness piece at firm level, but ultimately you need the practitioners who are dealing with private clients to be there sort of singing your song, advocating on behalf of you as a firm, and developing all those relationships, developing the trust and the consistency and all the other things that we mentioned will ultimately have to be done by people. And it can only be done by people, not by a firm. But sponsoring just is a way to sort of dial all of those things up a notch and get either your staff, your solicitors, your advisors, in front of all of these super useful contacts that have got lots of clients that could use your service. And it just amps every one of these, or the opportunity to amp every one of those different points up to a different level. So just can be super valuable.
Yeah, and absolutely. And sponsoring a networking event is actually really powerful as opposed to sponsoring just any old event, because you combine it with the networking and
Find it with the networking, and from our point of view, it's the niche, right? It's not just sort of shouting into a tunnel. It's or shouting in the wind. It's to a room where every single person there is private client focused. So it's just super relevant, and hopefully that makes it super valuable.
Absolutely. And it gives you the opportunity to hit a number of different facets of that marketing funnel where you can raise awareness, you can interest people, you can help them go through that consideration phase, and you can do all those follow-ups because you've combined your sponsorship with networking. So I think that's a really useful run through. It's been really interesting to chat it through, actually. And
Yeah, what's going on, break it down of what's happening.
mm,
But I would definitely say to anyone, particularly people who, if the thought of networking is sort of cringy, give it a go. The hardest part is signing up. It really is. The amount of emails or messages on LinkedIn we get after events where people say, like, I was really nervous before this event. I know it happened before the event in Manchester earlier last month. I can think of someone in Cardiff who said the same. Really nervous. But the second I got there, I relaxed and I actually had a really good time. And it was like music to my ears, you know. So really signing up and attending, just take that step, sort of be brave, even if you think you might find it a bit awkward. If you are worried, feel free to bring a colleague. I mean, certainly at our events, once it gets to the sort of main bit of the event, we'll separate you. So, you won't be stuck with your colleague for the whole night. But if it helps you get through the door for that first half an hour registration, sort of free flow mingling, then do it. And then from there, as a quick summary. So we had number one, signing up and attending, aim to have fun, learn about the people you talk to, be consistent and plan for the long term, very much connected. And the sort of sixth point, which I sort of termed these first six as the essentials, is following up and asking for that referral. I mean, those six in particular, I would just sort of emphasize over and over. I think for anyone personally attending, it's just you have to do them, and you will, if you do all of those things, you will have success from it. You will get referrals, and it will help you in your own firm either develop your career or grow your business. Of that, I have no doubt.
yes. I think that was a useful chat.
Yeah, thanks. That was useful,
So
and that of our second podcast. And yeah, looking forward to lots more in the future. Um, yeah, thanks for your time, and yeah, we'll catch you all soon.